Conger fam, what's going on? It's Coach Tommy and Coach Jared. Welcome. We're talking CrossFit Games season 2025. Today, we're going to be talking about if you're a competitive athlete, how we would recommend kind of mapping out your year if you're someone who's on that semifinal kind of train, CrossFit Games competitor, potentially train, how you guys should think about going about the season, what competitions you should do, what competitions you should maybe skip out on, and, ultimately giving yourself the best chance to have plenty of times, moments to compete, and then potentially making the CrossFit Games. So that's kind of what we're thinking for today. Hope you guys like it. Quick, Chiefs or Eagles? Super Bowl.
Are you asking me who I think is going to win or who do I want to win?
I know you don't want the Chiefs to win, so who do you think is going to win?
I'm still going to go with the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Okay. So I want the Chiefs to win because everyone doesn't want them to win. The only reason everyone doesn't want them to win is because they're so good. And I like greatness. So I'm absolutely rooting for them. And I absolutely do think they'll win. But I do think the Eagles have a very good chance at winning. They're a better team for sure on paper. Better wide receivers, running back, everything but quarterback they're better at.
I think the big factor for them is just Saquon. Like how if they can control him, then they have a really good chance. And it's not even a question. But if they struggle and he starts having one of those games where he's putting up 100 yards by halftime, then very different game.
Now you absolutely have to load the box and make Jalen Hurts throw the football. That's the only way you win that game. Only way. And hope he can't throw the ball. But we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be a good game. I don't know if I'll watch the whole thing, but
Yeah, it's too late for me. I'll try. I'll watch part of
late, bro. I'll try. If it's close, I'll consider.
it. Yeah.
If Chiefs are up by 21 at half, I'm turning that thing off. All right. Let's talk. Let's talk competitive season. So there's multiple ways to compete at the CrossFit Games this year. So I'll kind of run them through. The first one is we have like I think 9 or 10 semifinals. I don't know the exact number. It's really not that important. There are these sanctioned events, also known as semifinals, in my opinion, where you can go in person and compete at a majority of these sanctioned events. If you come in first or second place at them, you qualify for the CrossFit Games on both the men and female side of things. And we have 30 athletes competing at the games this year, correct? Individuals?
I'm not 100% sure, but yeah.
99% sure it's 30. I'm pretty sure we cut it from 40, but I think they said a minimum of 30. So there could be a few more, but not totally sure. They probably don't even know either. So whatever. So that's one way is you go to these sanctioned events. The other way that you can qualify is through online semifinals. So they're going to take the top 1% from the CrossFit Games Open, which will then allow you to qualify for the online competition, also known as semifinals online. And I believe they're taking the top 10 from there. So that's how we're getting our 30. We're getting 20 people, I believe, from in person and 10 from online. If you could fact check me there, Jared, with the online, that'd be great. But I'm 99% positive that's true.
Yeah, not.
Yeah, while you're looking that up, I'll keep chatting. But so with that being said, there's also a few ways as to how you can qualify for these sanctioned events. One of which is actually through the open. So, for example, the Syndicate Crown, they're taking the top 20 athletes in all of North America East. And then for, I believe, the Fittest Experience, I believe that's the West Coast semifinal where they're doing the same thing, taking the top athletes on the West Coast and qualifying, which is extremely hard. Like, that's by far the hardest way to qualify. And then if you qualify for that event, you're probably not making the games. So in my opinion, that's the last one I would go to. The last one I would go to would probably be the Syndicate Crown, simply because you're going to have 20 potential games athletes all competing for 2 spots. Like last year, the top 40 in North America East was absolutely ridiculous. And just to think about those athletes all competing for 2 spots is wild, like literally wild. So, I mean, that's one place you can go. The other's Mayhem. Mayhem is extending out invites. So yeah, that's another way that you can qualify for these in-person events is through invitations, which multiple events have multiple athletes doing that for. Mayhem has already gotten a bunch of people in. Um, and so they'll also allow people to potentially qualify through the open, I believe, depending upon how well you place, you can get an invitation, whatever that means. I think that's a little ridiculous that they just kind of get to decide who comes, but whatever. So be it. So, yeah, and then the other way, like I said, is there's qualifiers for these events. So, for example, Nikki and Josh, they both just qualified for the NorCal semifinal that'll be going down, I think, in May. And there's another one right now for I think it's called like Wadland in Spain. That's currently going on right now. Some good workouts there that they can also qualify for. My opinion, those are really good routes to go. If you missed out on the NorCal one, maybe you try for this Spain one. I think that's pretty cool to have the ability to go compete in Spain as well. And I think there might be one or two more that you can potentially go qualify for. That's not going to be through the open.
Yeah, I think the only one that you didn't touch on was they haven't really put a whole lot out about it of like the last chance qualifier, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like.
Yep. That's right.
I don't know if that's all online. I don't think they actually haven't spoken anything about that. It just says more information to be available.
My guess on that would be they would take like at least every person that came in third place at those in-person events, and then maybe like 10 people outside the online, whatever, something of that nature, and put them all in a bucket, like 20 people competing for one last spot. I would probably go with just the in-person athletes if I was them. I think that's probably more fair, but I don't know. Either way, yeah, that's cool that they threw that kind of in there. One of the last chance qualifiers. Those workouts, if you look back at them, are crazy.
Yeah, I recall them popping up a few years ago for sure.
Crazy workouts. Like, um, so yeah, that's cool. And so, my general recommendations for an athlete who is like, you compete at semifinals before, or you believe that you definitely should be competing this year. I would look to try to compete at 1 to 2 in-person qualifiers, and then also do the online semifinal as well. So now you're having 3 chances to go and qualify for the CrossFit Games, 2 of which are in person. So you gain some in-person experience. You get to have some fun, make a name for yourself potentially if you do really well. And then the online, in my opinion, is probably the easiest place to potentially qualify for the CrossFit Games, just because they're taking more spots. Um, that would be my opinion, personally. But what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with, if you have the ability to travel and you have the ability to potentially go and hit up at least, 1 to 2 of these in-person events. I mean, let's be honest, like getting to the CrossFit Games is incredibly, incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of what people love the most out of competing is just being in that competitive arena.
Yep.
And so you can do all the online qualifiers and what it's never the same as being somewhere competing maybe it's 5 years, 10 years down the road. You'll look back and remember like, oh, I had a lot of fun at the
Yeah.
finished experience. I had a lot of fun at the syndicate crown or whatever it is you try to go and qualify. And so that would be my suggestion as well. Like go and try to hit up at least one of those, two if you can certainly do that, just because it does make it a more memorable, enjoyable experience. And maybe you're somebody who just needs that extra push, who can feed off the energy in the crowd that might make a difference for you in performing better as opposed to doing it in your gym with music cranked and like 10 people watching. It's just not the same.
No, no. I agree. Like the one thing I don't love this season. I don't love how only 30 people are competing. I think that's how it's wild. But whatever. Um, what I do like though is the amount of in-person events that are available and how many times you can go and compete. Like that's like just having the Northeast semifinals, like that one event is kind of just like not enough, right? For these people who aren't making the games. And that's a majority of the athletes. And so to give the athletes opportunities to go compete more and have fun, gain some in-person experience and do things like that, I think is extremely valuable. So that is something I love and something I would highly recommend that most people do. Now, the reason I said 2 is because I just don't know if you can do 3 in-person competitions and the online semifinals. I just don't know if it's possible personally.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how they're all spaced out. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're in the U.S., you got one in Tennessee, one in Oklahoma. They're only about a month apart. There's another one later in May. Looks like the U.S. ones are about a month apart each. But even still, like, till you go and you prep for that, you taper, then you come back and you have to take a little bit of time away and then go back in. It's just hard. It's a lot of this up and down for 3 potential months if that's the route you decide to go. Even with an in person, or rather online semifinal. It's still the same thing where you're
Oh
taking
yeah.
time off and tapering. So it can really affect your training that time if you're not planning ahead and just decide to try to jump into something last second.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I just think it's really hard, but some people can do it and will do it, which is great. Awesome. I mean, if that's something you want to do and like you just want to get your name out there, go compete and have fun, by all means, go do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So, I think this is a good thing for the sport. I think it's a good thing for the athletes. I think that hopefully they kind of solidify this as the new route for years to come. I think we say that every year.
Agreed.
But I think this is the right one. Hopefully, they'll provide more information and better information as this goes on, and then for future years, just make things feel a little more solidified rather than just kind of doing the thing. Like that's how I feel right now. We're just kind of doing this thing and not really sure how it's going to stack up and what that's exactly going to look like. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and you know, we're here either way.
But I actually, when I look back for some people who are kind of newer to this stuff, I mean, I think back to whenever I first got into the sport ish, 2012, 2013, when I started actually knowing what the hell the CrossFit Games was. That's when they had regionals and like that was great. And it certainly challenged people to be their best. But I'm also not opposed to like, hey, if you want to travel and you want to try to hit up different events to try to earn your place, like I'm all for that having that option to choose. It's not like one make or break. Maybe you get sick. I can think of the one year where Ben Smith, like he was like sick as a dog in one of the regionals and he was like finishing like 30th place and then he actually made it through and made it to the games. But if you get sick or something just happens at the wrong time, can derail a whole year of training if that's what you're aiming for. So at least you have the opportunity to try to go and do multiple events to continue to go further down that season if that's something that really means something to you.
No, 100%. That is the biggest thing. It's like if you only have this one chance every year to qualify for the games, and like you said, you're sick, like that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this does make that. I've always said that, and that is something that I definitely agree with. So there is some bad with what's going on right now, I think, but I also think there's plenty good, and that's pretty much what happens every time something changes, right? So, it is what it is.
Agreed.
All right, my man. Well, I think we kind of covered it all there as to how most people should be approaching this season on that semifinal games level bubble. Any last words for the crew?
No, I don't have anything else to add to that one. I think we hit it.
Beautiful. All right, guys. Well, let's go, Chiefs. Catch you guys next.